Hi, welcome to Africa in Perspective. My name is Zelda and I make videos about Africa from Mondays to Fridays. Today I'll be answering the question, what is the richest country in Africa? So there are two ways of looking at this. One way is looking at which country produces the most value in terms of their goods and services. And another way of looking at it is which country has people that feel the wealthiest. So when you take how much money the country makes and you divide it by the number of people, which country has more money per person in a sense. So in the first part, when you look at just which country produces the most money in Africa, the answer is, before I say the answer, lock your answer in the comment section and I will let you know. But the answer is South Africa. So South Africa is the richest country in Africa in terms of what is known as nominal GDP. When you hear GDP, it sounds really fancy schmancy, but GDP stands for gross domestic product, which basically just means how much money the country produced in terms of the products that they sold, the services that they had to offer. So speaking purely of GDP, South Africa produced the most money in 2025 so far. And typically GDP is measured in a yearly basis on a yearly basis. So every year there will be a different country that pops up to the top. So sometimes, for example, in the past it's been Nigeria. Other countries in the list are Algeria, Egypt, there is Kenya as well, there is Morocco. So different countries pop up here and there depending on which year you're looking at, and also depending on the duration that you're looking at. So purely in terms of GDP, South Africa is the richest country in Africa. So think of it like South Africa has the biggest pizza in Africa. But on the other hand, when you consider the fact that South Africa's population is roughly between 63 to 65 million people, even if you have a big pizza, if you're dividing it by a lot of people, then everybody's going to get a tiny little share, which is why other people prefer to measure wealth, a country's wealth, in terms of GDP per capita, PPP. That sounds really fancy. Per capita just stands for per person. And then the other part, the PPP part, is purchasing power parity. Again, it sounds really fancy, but basically what it just means is they take how much money a country makes, divide it by the number of people, and then they adjust it depending on what you can buy in that country. So one of the ways economists measure how much you can buy stuff in a country for is they look at it's like the toothbrush index. That is what I call it. I don't know if that's what other people call it as well, but the way it was explained to me is that you will take the price of toothbrushes. There's a regular toothbrush in a given country, and that will tell you sort of how much you can purchase in that country. So for example, in Tanzania, you can purchase a regular toothbrush for around 25 cents. So a quarter of $1. You can get a nice toothbrush. You can use it for your 3 months and you'll be fine. But in Seychelles, it's roughly $1.50. So that kind of tells you that even if you have the same amount of money, you'll be able to buy more in Tanzania compared to Seychelles. So Seychelles is considered the richest country in Africa in terms of GDP per capita, PPP. And so think of it, when I said that South Africa is like a big pizza, but you're dividing it to a lot of people. Seychelles, on the other hand, is a tiny pizza, but Seychelles' population is 130,000 people. It's a tiny little island, great at tourism, one of the most beautiful countries in the continent. So, in that sense, even though they're not making as much money as the 65 million people in South Africa, the money that they're making, when it's divided by the people in the country, people in Seychelles feel a little bit wealthier. So, it's roughly $43,000 per person. That is just on average how the regular person from Seychelles feels. I hope that is a clear foundation to what we're going to be talking about today. So simply put, I think the better way to measure what country is the richest is purely by looking at just the nominal GDP, which is just how much money the country makes. Because I think that way we're able to learn lessons from that country to be able to see how other African countries can follow the way. So my answer to what is the richest country in Africa, my answer is South Africa. They have $410 billion in terms of their nominal GDP. And even though the gap between the wealthy and the poor is still very high, that country still you cannot compare it to any other country on the continent. So why exactly is South Africa the richest country in Africa in terms of GDP? The first thing is South Africa has a very diversified economy. This is something that you hear a lot when you're looking into investments on a personal level as well. People tell you diversify your portfolio. Typically what that means is don't put all your eggs in one basket, and this is something that South Africa has done really well compared to other African countries. So South Africa is popular for its mining industry. Its mining industry brings in about $15.3 billion every year. but they have gold, they have diamonds, they have platinum. That is just one side of the coin. When you look on the other hand as well, South Africa is doing an excellent job in terms of their services. So their wines, their fruits, their vegetables that they're exporting outside. So when you hear like, oh, South African wine, I love South African wine as well. So they're exporting a lot of minerals. Yes, that is on the mining industry. They're exporting a lot of things from, no things, that's a weird term, products from the agriculture sector as well. So because they don't have just one thing that they're staking their entire life on, that makes it a little bit easier for the economy to bounce back even when one sector is not doing too well. But the biggest sector that is contributing really well to South Africa's economy is their fintech and their tech industry. They're doing such a great job to the extent that foreign investments are pouring into South Africa the most compared to other African countries. So I'm a big Formula One fan, and even now that Formula One is debating whether or not to add a circuit in Africa. If you don't know what Formula One is, it's basically a fancy schmancy sport. Very handsome drivers drive around in different parts of the world, and they become famous and they get a lot of money. So they go to every single continent except Africa and Antarctica. I mean, they could go to Antarctica if they wanted to, but they're not in Africa as well. But now they're contemplating adding a circuit in Africa. And one of the countries that is up for running is obviously South Africa. So that is the other reason South Africa is doing great, is because South Africa is one of the top spots for English is not my first language. South Africa is one of the top spots when it comes to foreign investments, not just in Africa, but worldwide as well. It's because one, the people in South Africa speak very good English. Now, I know a lot of people are very offensive when I say that, and somebody actually commented on my TikTok and they said, oh, we don't need to learn English. We don't care about English. And I'm like, you can be as proud as you want to be about African languages, but you cannot deny the reality that English still runs the world. If you want to be able to do business in this world, you need to be able to learn some level of English. Every single billionaire that you know, no matter how rich they are, they're learning English and they're getting their kids to learn English. They're getting their kids to learn multiple languages, yes, but English is the one language they all need to learn. So South Africans are able to get jobs from international companies, jobs in like customer service, jobs in human resources, even while they're still in South Africa. That foreign investment is pouring into their country. So I think this is something that other African countries need to learn. We can be proud of our national heritage. We can be very proud of our local talent, but at the same time, we need to be aware that every single country that has developed, every single country that has risen out of poverty has invited in foreign investments. So those are the main reasons. But the one last reason that I wanted to cover, and I'm saving the best for the last, is South Africa has absolutely amazing infrastructure compared to other African countries. It's not perfect. There's still load shedding, of course. But at the same time, when you compare South Africa's infrastructure, when you look at Johannesburg's skyline, when you look at Cape Town, when you look at Pretoria, when you look at, is it Durban, you cannot compare these cities to. I'm gonna throw Tanzania under the bus because I don't want to offend anybody, but you can compare it to Dodoma. I'm gonna throw Dodoma. Dodoma is my hometown, but Dodoma is supposedly the capital city of Tanzania. But Dodoma still, there isn't like a mall in Dodoma, guys. I'm so frustrated with Tanzania overall, but there is no mall like where people can go to and watch a movie and just chill. I know it's not like an important thing, but it's just without these avenues for like entertainment, without a proper railway network, we don't have a metro in the capital city of Tanzania. Our bus system is. I live. I'm not going to say where I live for safety reasons, but I've lived in Dubai, for example. The metro system is one of the best metro systems I've ever had to use. Tanzania doesn't have that. And I'm thinking, if you're in a capital city of a country, you don't have a metro system, what are you doing? But compared to other African countries, South Africa is doing great. Their ports, their roads, everything is a little bit more advanced compared to other African countries. And that makes it easier for goods and services to move within the country. So I hope that is helpful. Thinking of other African countries, how do you think your country is doing in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of their foreign investment, and at the same time also diversifying their economic sector? So that is how South Africa is the richest country in Africa. If that sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe, to like, to share, to comment, and let me know if there are any other videos that you want me to do. I make videos from Mondays to Fridays, and I'm happy to make any videos really that you ask me of. So thank you so much for watching, and you'll see me in the next video. Bye.